Hello, my name is Dirk Schober. I'm lead solution engineer at Salesforce Analytics, and I want to talk to you today about Tableau MCP. This is a track that we did at the Data and AI Summit in Munich in Germany 2026. I have some more time here. That's why I want to spend that time to provide you more details. In case you've been there and didn't get everything, this is your chance to get more insights. So I'm using a session here that I recorded, and I have the following agenda. So first of all, we do not talk about how to configure Tableau MCP. That's very easy. And things are changing actually, but we can see here how Tableau MCP actually looks like if you're using it. And why maybe things can go wrong, how to fix that, and then we talk about some use cases and more or less architectural scenarios. And then maybe you can find the right approach for your organization to go ahead with. So I do not want to scare you away. I want to provide you value and best possible insights. So most of the people in this virtual room, while you are listening, or many of your customers or partners, or we all will have been somewhere in IT in large decisions, right? So if you have SAP, for example, as an ERP system, that wasn't implemented on a weekend. If you decided to build a data warehouse, a data lake, that's not pure instinct or market trend. It has a kind of reason, right? A deeper reason. And if you're moving to a cloud with a project, that's a real project, even with Tableau. And as you've been deciding for Tableau, that also was a decision. So why should you hurry when doing something with AI, and especially something like providing AI for everyone? And that's what I'm asked currently very often by customers. How can I provide analytical AI-based insights to everyone? So that's kind of tempting, that what we have, especially if you see this. So I did some recordings here with Claude as a placeholder, and we will come to the architecture later. What I do here is I'm connecting to Tableau via MCP and list simply the project folders. And then also list the available MCP tools that I have to work with the AI on Tableau. And what we see here when we dig deeper, that Claude is just sending out that command to the right MCP tool that we see listed here. Most of them are view only currently. And it gets back a technical answer. And it's up to Claude to interpret that. So next step is I want to find a special view in a workbook that is on in a special folder. So I'm naming that wrong. I'm using monthly overview, but there is no monthly overview. So Claude is intelligent enough to work through that. We've seen that and find not exactly what I wanted to find, but with a slight different name. Okay, so that was, if you didn't see that, that was an overview about data from my PV installation at home, and we will come back to that in a second. So if that was going on too fast, don't worry, I pre-recorded that session, the video snippets, but I will explain everything. So all that together, the only thing that I wanted to promote here is Tableau MCP and Claude as a placeholder for any other agent or something. That's very easy to set up. You just need a personal access token while we are talking here. Meanwhile, we also have the possibility to have a hosted MCP. It's not on roadmap anymore, it's delivered. And we also have OAuth as a single sign-on option in that MCP server that we have hosted there. So for the personal access token option, as many are still using that, we have some warning signs later on. But first of all, let's come to some real project, right? We've seen that folder very briefly, right? The PV daily data, or the PV data folder with that view that was displayed. And what I want the system to do is to concentrate on a certain data source here. That's for demo purposes mainly, just to focus the system on some into some direction. And then I want it to visualize, and that's what typically happens, right? You have pure data either via Tableau MCP or maybe directly from your data lake or something. And you want Claude to visualize, in this case, the monthly production data, how much electrical power did I produce with my PV installation in a certain time frame. So that's a very easy task. And I fast forwarded that, of course. So Claude checks here the data source and uses the Tableau MCP server integration to get the pure data, and then it digests the data and comes up with a quite nice visualization here, I have to admit, right? In this case, you can even hover over it to see the values. Of course, there's no filtering because there's no context to filter. And I have the view here on a static image again, so we can talk about that for a moment. So that's a visualization that's kind of like in an HTML page, like on a web page, and it shows the production data and the self-sufficiency about the business terms. We can, of course, say, okay, in winter in northern Germany, we do not have all too much sun. Also the self-sufficiency, so how much of the power can I use for myself, or how much of the power that I'm using is coming from the PV installation or from the battery. That's also going down in winter. There's some kind of slight ditch here. We could investigate why. That's not our point here. The thing is, we get the visualization and we also get some text for that, some explanation, some really deeper insights. Okay, so that's good. And let's talk about that PV installation to have the right context here. So of course, if you don't have that at home, you can produce with the solar panels. You can produce and feed the power into the house. If you have more power than you can use currently, then you are loading it into a battery. And if you have even more power or the battery is full, then you're feeding it into the network. The issue is, if I'm selling that to the network, that's kind of very cheap for the network, and also very cheap for me. So and if I buy it back, it's kind of expensive. So what I want to avoid is that dark green area feeding it into the network, and also at the same time avoid the yellow area or the orange area where I'm not consuming from myself, I'm consuming from the net, right? So that's maybe the task here to avoid. And I was thinking about that when I got that PV installation a few years ago. So you don't have to read the complete prompt. I'm quickly explaining that. And I was thinking about having an additional battery that's stacked on the first one. So I'm trying to formulate the prompt in a way like a business user would do it when I'm thinking about having that second battery as a investment and get a return on investment from that discrepancy between the purchase price of power and the sell price for power. And then I have assumed some investment amount here. And just explain that in my own words to the AI. And let's see how it works. So I'm doing that live here, exactly that prompt. And of course, Claude pulls the data. I'm looking into the data here because I wanted to check for the level of granularity that is in here. So as you will see here, it's truncated on the month. So that was a technical term there, but you can imagine that it tries to get the monthly data from that data source, because maybe for efficiency purposes, that's maybe a good choice. So you do not dig all the detailed data from the database, or from Tableau in this case. And it comes back with a visualization of a return on invest chart here, and kind of like a dashboard that I can work on. So let's look at that again in a static image. That was the prompt, and it comes back with annual savings of about 370 euros. Doesn't matter too much. The point is, simple payback is 6.7 years. There's a break even in the 7th year, and we see somewhere in the graphics that we have how much can we store in addition to the current storage, and how does it accumulate over years as a return on invest chart. So actually, that's kind of fast. It was taking in original like 2 minutes or something. And it looks like exactly what you pay someone for. Maybe not an experienced consultant, but maybe a junior controller, right? Who would do that typically in Excel or something. That's of course something that we can look at. The issue is it's completely wrong. And the thing is, it's not crashed wrong. So there's nothing that Claude tells us, hey, look here, right? It's confident, Claude is completely confident in telling me a fact here that I have a payback after 6 or 7 years, and completely invisible, it's completely wrong from a business standpoint. And I would have expected Claude to investigate maybe about, how a solar installation works and so on, because that's kind of easy to understand. Sorry for that. So in addition to that, the visuals and the result is kind of different every time. I did that workshop like 15 or 20 times, and it was actually different every single time. So this was kind of like the 12th run, and it was the first time that it was telling me something to consider, like a caveat here, that it was considering each day's excess on a battery. And it tells me that, and I have to actually read it to really understand. So the thing is, it's talking about each day. But remember that I was looking into the data, into the technical feedback from the data, and it was truncated on the month. So how can it pick up the daily data here? That was what I was wondering about. And the thing is, if you go to the meta perspective, what you just watched is pure shadow IT, something that we were blaming for years. And it's even at its worth. Because if someone would do that in Excel, pull the data, put it in Excel, do the analysis there, do some work on that. We all know that this is shadow IT. We all know that it might be different from the results from someone else. But here, there's an AI telling us, I'm very confident this is your payback, right? But I will still show you why Tableau is, why your investment in Tableau is exactly what can make it trustworthy. So coming back to that term, it was kind of hidden in the text. And the reality is your existing battery already absorbs some of this, that surplus first. So it understands the context that the battery is stacked. That's good, right? But still, if I go deeper into that, and I skip that part here from the video because we come back to that in a second. But if you go deeper into that, you will see that on the left-hand side, the 6.7 year payback. And if you hint Claude that it would need daily granularity of data, which it was assuming to have, it says, pardon me, right? I go back and fetch the daily data here. And that only the full day battery, so the days count that where you have a full battery, right? Then it comes back with a payback of 12.8 years. So that's kind of double, right? And the question is, why, right? And the only thing that AI tells me here is, here are my great results. That's my result. But at least at the second result, I would say, why should I trust you? And that's, by the way, exactly the question that I sometimes ask. Why should I trust you, right? By the way, looking different every time. This is also, I was digging that out, that screenshot from an older version. In an older version, it even gave me sliders to adjust that was looking really beautiful, and it was working. So the values in the bars were moving when I was sliding here with values. It was still completely wrong, but that shiny application-like interface was suggesting to me that it's even a great thing. And as you can see in the text, in that version, it was completely different results. Anyway, so let's switch the tooling a bit. Some of you might know Claude Code. For those who don't, maybe a quick difference explanation. And the only thing that really matters here is Claude Code is made for coding, right? And for that reason, it works on a folder. And there it can store scripts and in between results and so on. So it can keep results and run on that. So I was assuming that it works better. So same prompt as before. I'm starting over again. And I just want to show you a bit the visual difference between the one and the other, because we might need that later. So Claude Code, as you can see here, it was querying the data sources in red. You can see the red lines. And there was something going wrong, right? And it was retrying. That's something that Claude Code does. It's retrying by itself. It's reading files, it's doing something, it's creating a Python script or something. And I was asking it to create that visualization, but the visualization didn't really come back. It was just shown when I clicked on the link, right? And this was the visual. It looks completely different as the other result. And it's also completely non-interactive in this case. It's kind of 80s style, maybe 90s. And it's just one pure image. So I can do nothing with that. I cannot change any color or something. I would have to screenshot something out of that if I want to focus on anything. It's a frozen image, right? So going to the prompt with the investment, the thing is, in Claude Code, you can see quite good how tokens are burned, right? And that's something what I found while it's working. It's doing something that is just burning credits. Not only, but it doesn't care about burning credits, right? It was creating a Python script, and if you look into that Python script, it has the values put into the script. It's not you get the values from Tableau, start locally, and then run a script on that. So if the values changes, the script also can be kept. No, the script is a throwaway piece, right? So what you can see here very quickly, if you go back, and I have a screenshot of that, is that it was understanding the daily thing. And again, it hides the visuals that it creates somewhere in the text where you have to dig in and really select the image. It's not just showing the image. That's Claude Code style. Okay, you can live with that. But actually, the image that comes back, it's two images in one. So you can do even less with that because it's completely frozen. You would have to really cut it into pieces, and then the header is gone. And I don't know, it's just it's factually in itself kind of correct in the context that Claude thinks of, which is wrong again. But then the image is completely ugly. So Claude Code, the thing is, understands on days that on some days we have a feed into the network and we can purchase power. And it goes into that daily pattern immediately for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I did exactly the same thing in Claude Chat as in Claude Code. And it comes back with a complete different saving here, like the third version of it. So we will come back to that thing up there later again. And I was asking for the calculation. So how did you calculate the ROI? And it tells me everything mathematically in a very detailed way, how it came to that result. And so again, it's assuming to me, and it even gives me that limitation that daily granularity is a simplification. In reality, I would need 15 minutes data, then I could work better. So it's still completely wrong. And it's even more invisible. Why is it more invisible? Because it's giving me so much details on questioning. I'm asking, how did you do that calculation? And it doesn't even think for a minute on to rethink things, right? It just gives me that result. And with that, all the details is even more confident. It looks even more professional, but it's still completely wrong. And it's again completely different. Let's go back for a second. Why is this wrong, right? Before we come to the correction. Why is that wrong? The key assumption is feed in is larger than 0 and purchase is larger than 0 on the same day. And these days were considered. But if you think about that, that happens on more or less every day where I have sunshine, because if I have just enough sunshine, it's sometimes so much that it just feeds into the network, even though I have a battery. And then if the battery is empty, it's purchasing anyway. So on that day, this assumption is just wrong. It's just, I wouldn't have a different term for that. It's just wrong. Okay, so let's give it some business logic here. And the business logic is, the issue is the system Claude has to interpret itself which days to consider. And then on the day, it would have to consider the battery is full now at, I don't know, somewhere in the afternoon. And only the power that comes after that would have been usable by the additional battery. Okay. So how did I correct that? I created another data source that's called PV Daily with max battery that has a field max battery percentage. This is the only thing that I'm telling it. Actually, it doesn't. It does have a second field that is calculating exactly the amount of power that is available after the battery reached 100% on the day. So let's look at that, but I'm not telling that in the prompt. I wanted to test it. So I'm asking, how does it change the ROI calculation? So it gets the metadata. It finds another field that's additional capturable energy, right? And it says, hey, that's great. Let's use that. Correct. That's my business logic, right? The max battery on that day is just a on and off thing, like did it reach 100% or not? And it comes back with an even better ROI. I was wondering why. So if you look at the results again, it gives me a better picture. That's the yellow line on the right-hand side. It's the pre-built field, right? So it gets a better ROI. I was wondering why, because the thing is, before it was getting, from my point of view, too many days. It was considering too many days. So previously, it was looking at that feed-in greater 0, purchase greater 0, It was a rough daily approximation. Yes, okay, but you didn't hint me that, right? It captured possibility of shifting data. Actually, that's also wrong, but I didn't want to discuss it with that thing here. But what it now tells me is that if the battery is full early in the afternoon and I'm using the power during the evening, I might have even more power during the night, and that's the next day. And that wasn't considered before. But I can consider it now because the business logic is in Tableau now and not has to be built by Claude. That's the main difference. So the business logic that you put maybe into your Tableau data sources, and you can consider your Tableau data sources as your semantic layer. Maybe it doesn't have all too much explanation, but you can put it into the description of the data source, right? If you have that field available. And also in the description of the field, you can put in explanations that would be able to be picked up by the agent. And that semantic layer is your source of truth. And the business logic is not just documentations, it's executable truth. That's a term that AI suggested to me, but I found it quite, grippy. It gives you consistency if you have that logic in the semantic layer. And also the governance travels with the data. We are not looking at that here, but consider for your true life work cases, role level security, permissions, certification of data sources. Are you really sure this is the correct data source? And so on and so on. And there's one more thing. That's the second last line. The auditability is not given here. And if you are acting in Europe, then you are falling under GDPR and the EU AI Act. And that tells that you have to be able to audit how decisions were made if AI is influencing these decisions. With that setup that I was showing you, you have no traceability at all, right? So let's come back to something positive, right? Something other positive. To rescue that thing of MCP, the true value of that is in multi-agent and in using multiple sources. So for example, in our context, we could bring in weather data to check something in cooperation with with power data. That's kind of near, right? So I'm asking the system now to consider all data until September and compare that to weather data that I have also attached via an MCP server in that case here. So another Tableau MCP and the weather MCP. It's not allowed to use the Tableau data sources for the weather because there is a Tableau data source available, and I want to avoid that the AI just picks that up. I want to show that additional MCP behavior and the additional positive logic that the AI context gives you. So if I do that, it very quickly finds the weather MCP server and says, "Hey, that's great. I'm using that to look for radiation data. How much UV radiation did I have?" The thing is, it comes back and says, "Well, that's a problem. The MCP server that you gave me doesn't have that data on a historical basis." I didn't know that, but anyway. So for what Claude does here as a positive thing, it redirects itself, it corrects itself, it uses other tools if they are allowed, of course, and says, well, I do not have the radiation data on the MCP server, so I can simply fetch a web web-based API here, which doesn't need any authentication or something. It's just an open AI. And Claude knows that. So it gets the data from there. You would say, well, the MCP server was not working. So why is that good? The good thing is it was using it. It was just finding that it doesn't deliver the correct data and corrects itself and swivels into another direction by itself. And that's maybe positive, right? If we go on further here, we find that it creates a visualization. And here we are again in that situation where, well, the visualization is like 4 visualizations in one image. So like we've seen before in Cloud Code. And it's giving me it tries to plot here the PV production versus radiation, right? It checks if this is normal. What I was asking for is, was the year that I was looking at here as a reference here a good or bad year? So implication for the ROI analysis, it's not inflated by an unusual sunny period. It was like 5% production difference to other years. So I think we get the point. We can connect other MCP. We still get a bad visualization because we are not telling anything about what kind of visualization we want to have. And now comes the solution for the system. I'm using it again for something where I would have to sit down and do some things for that. And here it's very, very fast. And maybe that's something I could simply live with the business logic, or not as the existing business logic. So let's see what comes out of that. I now want you to consider also the data beyond 2023, because I actually bought that battery at that point of time. So let's see what that post analysis tells us. That's correct. So it's working on that data. So it tells me the battery effect is clearly visible and very significant. The change of the feed-in rate, so how much did I sell to the network and for a cheap price, changed by 25% point in average. So we can go into details, of course. It gives me a kind of slick visualization here with all the self-sufficiency and a 30-day average rolling average line. That would have taken me some time, to be honest, to create that in Tableau. Still, the visualization is kind of useless because it's getting very, very small now. And it's just, again, one big image. I could certainly ask it to split that up into different parts. So it also might make it complex with the multi-agent approach. Because of that, I was asking Claude itself for the advantages and disadvantages of the different approaches here. So let's look at that. The top 5 advantages, like Claude itself says, is it's a question first analytics, no dashboard prerequisite. Yes and no. It's also every single time wasting credits. While if you have a dashboard, it doesn't waste any credits at all, right? If you're looking at the same data every day, then a dashboard might be the better approach. Multi-source fusion, yes, we've seen that. Democratization of a sophisticated methodology. Yes and no, because it's not mentioning the danger here, because it's going into the advantages, right? And it's integrated output generation. Now, I would call that not an advantage because it's still put into that tool. You cannot share that in any way. How do you share that image? You can just send it by email, right? And it has an accelerated hypothesis testing. That's true. Disadvantages based on what Claude tells me. It's zero reproducibility. That's true. We have confident errors, so we have confident communication with errors that have no audit trail. I cannot check that in any way, except I'm asking. There's no governance and no security in any way, right? It's unscalable and it's completely useless for institutional knowledge because it doesn't persist, right? And that's a kind of contradiction to the output within the tool as an advantage that I cannot keep it for institutional knowledge. So, okay, that's a bit detailed now, but these were the advantages and disadvantages. And then I was asking Claude about its own reflection. And it says, well, the most dangerous moment in the entire session was when I produced a confident, well-visualized, completely wrong savings figure. And it looked exactly like the correct one. Yes, that's true. So let's come to different use cases for a moment. This was a one-time analysis on the right-hand side, right? Ad hoc, I'm doing that ROI thing, and I still want to have a confident result. That put aside. But for that purpose, if I'm a bit careful, I could live with that. And if I'm using Tableau MCP with business logic, we've seen that it corrects itself, right? So for quick decisions and exploration and prototyping, especially for prototyping, that's a good thing. See something like, here's the ROI calculation, and now please, Claude, give me all the details that I would need to check that by myself, right? That would be an approach that you would do in real life. And then, of course, you humanly check it before sending it away. On the left-hand side, repeating insights, think about wasting tokens for nothing if you have dashboards or metric-based things like Tableau Pulse that would give you operational alerts and schedule reports and greet metrics every day in the same way, consistently secured, governed, right? So the very basic guardrails that you need if you want to go for this kind of approach, AI for everyone, using MCP, then you need some user education. On the technical side, you need row-level security, you need certified data sources so to make clear this is the data source to use. You need the agent to really focus on these. You have to have clearly defined business logic as much as possible within the data sources that can be picked up by the AI. And you have to, if you're using PATs, you have to be very careful. I have a separate slide for that. In terms of user education, I think we've shown quite good that you need to make sure that people are using that in the right context. And there's a single source of decisions, single source for decisions. Not only a single source of truth, but a single source for decisions. What are people using as basis for their decisions? Is it something that comes out of AI? Then it must be trustworthy. In terms of PAT, personal access tokens, that was so far the way to connect MCP to Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server. And that's still there, right? If you're using that, it's a personal access token. It's attached to a user. It gives you all the rights that that user has. And for that reason, you need to be very careful because it might be used in the connection for every other person that is using the same context, if you have that in the code. Also, if you just copy paste it somewhere else, you're spreading that through the organization without maybe knowing. And one of the dangers is also licensing, because you might give access to the Tableau environment with a licensed user, but the user that is using it is not licensed. And that would be something that works against the license agreement. And that way, it might be something that an auditor might pick up in the end. And you maybe didn't even know that. So you have to be careful about the PATs. I would advise you to, coming very quickly back to that slide, I would advise you to limit the number of days to maybe something like 30, and also have just a specific group of people being allowed to create PATs So you can limit these people to people that you trust or that you educated. So know your possibilities. Tableau was well designed in the past to also work in the future. And we see that this kind of really works good. We have that MCP to be open. We have the possibilities to implement a true semantic layer within Tableau. And that way, it's still a good investment. It was an investment in the past and it's still a good investment. So the possibilities that you have with Tableau MCP are, of course, more. And we can talk about that very detailed, but I don't want to do that here. Very quickly, just. And if you say I have enough, you can skip that part in the recording, of course. But here are some scenarios that you can use Tableau MCP for. The first thing is not Tableau MCP. The first thing is Tableau Agent with the dashboard Q&A. You can just use your Tableau license to ask your questions. We did that for you, and we are safeguarding that you are within guardrails and that we are avoiding hallucinations and you do not get out of your context. But that's also kind of looks a bit inflexible. It comes with a price that we did everything from you. Everything from there on is your own thing, is your own implementation. And you have to be aware of that. So if you're using that full client, that's a fast approach like we've seen. And you just need an AI subscription for that and the Tableau license and you can go. But you have literally nothing all around that. No infrastructure, just the governance from Tableau MCP. Everything else you have to take care on your own. You could extend that into a chatbot thing like Slack or Teams. Slackbot is a fantastic thing to work together with agentic analytics because it combines the logic that we see, like we've seen in Claude, with the business logic from Tableau. And with Slack, you would even have your internal knowledge being attached if you want that. Also would work maybe with Teams. I didn't try that, but it should work. And of course, using MCP, the most use cases are the custom application and the enterprise AI. So enterprise AI would be something like Copilot, and you attach Tableau MCP to that alongside with other MCP servers to give the possibilities to people to dig into their data. If you take all these possibilities and put them onto some charts like comparing affordability and time to value, you see that the Tableau agent is quite good there because you can immediately switch it on and it's very affordable. It's just included in your Tableau license. The AI client is also quite good here, and the Slackbot is kind of in the middle. Enterprise AI, well, you really have to invest for that, and the time to value, once it's there, you can do that, but you have to significantly build something here. Second question, will your security team approve this? That's a nice question. So we are comparing security and governance and the auditability as size. So as you can see, Tableau Agent is quite good. The AI client that we've seen here is kind of no audit, so it's kind of failing in that context, right? You could say that. Slackbot is somewhere in the middle. Actually, auditability we could discuss because it's quite good, auditable via the Agentforce environment. But then again, you need to protocol what Slack does. And if we have a third view, like customizability versus scalability, then of course, Tableau Agent is kind of in the lower area, lower right area. That means it's not very good customizable, but it scales completely with the environment, right? Slackbot is again in the middle, and the AI client is kind of very customizable, but also not very scalable, right? So of course we can discuss many of these things, but that would be for a decision how my approach would be. I would use something like this to think about the different aspects. So altogether, Tableau is keeping the promise as a true enterprise platform. We are not talking about simply drag and drop in desktop and then maybe attach it to the server. That's not the point anymore in Tableau. That's still a nice to have, right? It's still very, very interesting that we are focusing on the end user, but we are giving, in this context here, the governed and secure and flexible environment to the outside world in a controllable way. So coming back to the first slide, if we've been going through all these decisions, like deciding for an ERP, deciding for a data lake, data warehouse, your data foundation, moving to cloud or not, choosing Tableau or not, AI for everyone is another decision now, which is more or less on the same scale. So I would like you to make it yours. Think about the possibilities that you have and not just follow a trend. If you open up that world for everyone, you might run into that shadow IT situation that we see. Thank you very much.